You ever know a bully so big and mean that nobody even dared to make eye contact? Now, what if that bully was on your team, ruining all the fun for everyone? Today, we're heading to the world's most epic dodgeball court to meet a bully so huge they call him Goliath. But we're also going to meet a hero, and he's probably not who you're expecting. Get ready, because this is one adventure you don't want to miss. Let's go. In the heart of the city was a place where legends were born, the ultimate dodgeball arena, home of the mightiest team in the league, the Titans. The court was bright, the dodgeballs were a rainbow of colors, and the stands were always roaring. But lately, a shadow had fallen over the Titans' court, and that shadow had a name: Goliath. Goliath wasn't just the best player. He was the biggest, strongest, and meanest. When he stomped onto the court, you could feel it shake. His voice was a low rumble that gave everyone goosebumps. He could hurl a dodgeball so fast it was just a red blur, and he never ever missed. But Goliath didn't just play to win, he played dirty. If a smaller kid like little Samuel made an amazing catch, Goliath would get right in his face.
"That was just luck,"
He'd grumble, snatching the ball.
"Give it to me, only I make the winning throws."
He'd shove his way to the front of every line, whether it was for the water fountain or the post-game pizza. He once snagged 3 slices before anyone else even had a chance, calling it a big player tax. It wasn't fair, it was just mean. The other Titans were terrified. They'd whisper to each other when Goliath wasn't looking.
"I was wide open, but he refused to pass,"
one would say. Another would sigh.
"He kicked over my water bottle yesterday and just laughed."
They started playing with their shoulders hunched, always trying to stay out of Goliath's way. The fun was gone. The teamwork was gone. All that was left was fear. Even the team's coach, Coach Saul, seemed stuck. On one hand, Goliath was his star player. The Titans won every single game because of him. But Coach Saul saw the sadness in his other players' eyes. He knew winning wasn't everything, especially when his team felt more like a prison than a playground. The joy was gone, all because one big bully was casting a very large shadow. Now, over on the sidelines, sitting quietly on the bench, was a boy named David. David wasn't a player on the main squad. He was the water boy. His job was to make sure everyone stayed hydrated, handing out towels and cheering on his team, even when their spirits were low. David may have been small, and his job might have seemed unimportant, but he had the biggest heart and the sharpest eyes on the team. While everyone else stared at the floor, afraid of Goliath's glare, David watched. He saw everything. He saw Goliath trip a teammate. He saw him mock a player who missed a catch, and he saw the fear that kept his friends from loving the game. It made David's own heart ache. But David had a secret. After practice, when everyone else went home, he'd stay behind. The huge, empty court became his personal training ground. He knew he didn't have the size or strength to throw like Goliath. He couldn't rely on pure power. So he invented his own way to play. He had a long, sturdy sweatband he called his super-sling. He'd tuck a small, practice-sized dodgeball, one the big kids called a pebble, into the fold. Then he'd start to spin it. It would circle over his head, a colorful blur going faster and faster. Then, at the perfect moment, he'd let one end go. The little ball would rocket through the air, faster and more accurate than any normal throw. He practiced for hours, knocking over empty water bottles he'd lined up on the far wall. He almost never missed. His skill wasn't about being big, it was about being clever, focused, and believing in himself. It was the final practice before the championship game, and the tension was thicker than ever. Goliath was in a terrible mood, storming around the court and yelling that no one was good enough to be on his team. Then it happened. A new player, a kid named Jesse, who was David's best friend, was showing off his brand new bright blue sneakers. He was so proud of them. During a drill, Jesse dodged one of Goliath's throws with a pretty cool jump, and the parents in the stands all gasped and cheered. Goliath hated that. He hated when the attention was on someone else. He stomped right up to Jesse, his face twisted into a sneer.
"Nice jump, show off,"
he grunted.
"But can your fancy shoes do this?"
And with a loud, deliberate stomp, Goliath brought his giant foot down right on Jesse's new sneaker, leaving a huge, dirty footprint. Jesse's eyes welled up with tears. He didn't say a word. He just stared at his ruined shoe. His shoulders slumped. The entire team went silent. Coach Saul opened his mouth to say something, but Goliath shot him a look that dared him to interfere. From the bench, David saw it all, and something inside him just snapped. This wasn't about the game anymore. This wasn't about winning or losing. This was was about standing up for his friend. It was about being brave when everyone else was too scared. He looked at Jesse's tear-stained face, then at Goliath's smug grin. David knew right then and there that someone had to do something, and that someone was him. Enough was enough. The arena went dead silent. The players backed away, forming a wide circle. Goliath stood on one side of the court, grabbing the biggest red dodgeball he could find. He squeezed it, making it look like a toy in his massive hand. On the other side stood David. He didn't pick up a ball. Instead, he pulled 3 pebble balls from his pouch and took off his favorite sweatband, his super-sling. Goliath scoffed.
Are you kidding me? You're fighting me with those? This is pathetic.
The whistle blew. Instantly, Goliath reared back and launched the red ball with all his strength. It was a rocket aimed right at David's chest, but David was ready. He wasn't trying to be strong, he was being quick. He sidestepped, and the ball whizzed past, hitting the back wall with a loud,
You can't dodge forever.
Goliath roared, grabbing another ball. He threw it, even faster this time. David ducked, and it sailed over his head. Goliath threw a third, then a fourth, then a fifth. Each throw was a cannonball, but David was a blur of motion. He ducked, dipped, and dived, too fast and agile for Goliath's brute force. Goliath was getting tired, and worse, he was getting frustrated. He was breathing heavily, his throws getting wild. He was used to winning on the first try. This had never happened before. Seeing his opening, David planted his feet. He calmly placed a pebble ball into his super sling and started to spin it. It was slow at first. Goliath paused, confused. David spun it faster, until it was just a blur.
What's that, a party trick?
Goliath yelled, throwing another ball right at him. But just as Goliath's ball left his hand, David released his sling. The tiny pebble shot out like a laser. It wasn't aimed at Goliath. It was aimed at the ball he had just thrown. The 2 balls collided in midair. David's small, fast pebble knocked Goliath's huge, powerful ball right off course.